Good morning and welcome to the Student Hub Live. My name's Karen Foley and I'm going to be presenting today's show. We've got a really packed programme for you out there. Now, our events are live and online and interactive, and I met heaps of you on Saturday, hopefully, at some of our online workshops, and I hope that some of you have come today. Don't worry if you missed any of those. All of our events are available to watch on Catch Up, but on Saturday we did some skills and we introduced lots and lots of new students to the Open University, and we had some of our regular students who've been studying for some time, still living and breathing, inspiring those people who are new and giving some tips and advice on how to deal with fitting OU study into our very busy lives. So this event's a bit different from Saturday's event, where we had online workshops and Adobe Connect, and if you missed those, I'll show you a little trailer about them later. But today's show is broadcast live from our studio here at the Open University in Milton Keynes. And I'm not actually sure what the weather's like, because I'm going to be sitting here and I've arranged a whole host of wonderful people to tell you all about studying at the Open University. And what is so lovely about these events is that they're interactive. So you can talk to each other about whatever you like to talk about. You can ask questions. You can answer other people's questions. But our dialogue today is all about involving you at home. And to do that, I've got HJ on our hot desk, who's going to be joined by some other people as well. How's everyone at home, HJ?
We're doing very well, very excited to start. There's quite a few people who joined us on Saturday, so it's great that people are coming back. Tala joined us last year for our refreshers as well, so it's very excited to come this year and learn something new. We've got a lot of people doing the Access module, so Anthony's doing Y033, Fion's doing Y031, and Emma's doing Y032. It is Anthony's first time, so welcome. I'm sure you're in good company here. And we are finding, as Susan said, there's a lot of stuff on our module websites that we're trying to get through and trying to work out this morning. So we've got a lot of good tips for that. As always, anything in the chats goes. It's us here on the hot desk to put your thoughts, comments and questions to our fantastic guests in the studio. And I know they want to hear from you. Or we can just chat among ourselves about cake or something like that. We always enjoy that. If you see my board behind me as well, I'm very excited to have this up because I like to put any good study tips that you have or ideas for managing your time, because honestly, I'm a bit useless at that. So any help you can give me for that, I'd love to put your top tips on the board. And if you want to send anything in to us as well, I can see on some of the profile pictures, people have been updating with their fluffy cats and study buddies. If you want to send them in to us and see them on the board, like I've got my study buddy up there, just send them in studenthub@open.ac.uk, and we'd love to put them on there. Just say that you're happy for us to use your photo and we'll feature your study buddy. But we're all ready and excited and raring to go here in the chat.
Oh, brilliant. And Tala's one of our international students. Welcome, Tala. She's been to loads of our workshops. And you can tell us where you are because we've got loads of widgets, interactive voting tools. So we've got one that's a map. We ask, where are you right now? Yeah, Europe is one option. North America, South America, Australia and various other places. You can just click on the UK, though, if you're in the UK. But we often have a lot of international students at these events because you can log in from anywhere, from any device, etc. We'd also like to know how you're feeling right now, so you can put 3 words in those boxes. Now, if you can't think of 3 things that you're feeling, you can think of 1 or 2, but just put a full stop or a cross or something in the other boxes, otherwise your results won't submit. We'd also like to know which level you're studying. We've got a variety here. Level 1, that can be Access or a Level 1 module. And one of the things we were talking about on Saturday was, how do you know what level you're studying at? And very often Level 1 will be the first thing that you're studying here, but often some of our modules are coded things like A111. Y is our Access module, so we've got lovely students from Y031, Y032 and Y033, which are our 3 Access modules. So you can just tick Level 1 if that's you. Do you agree and disagree? We'll pull that up a bit later if we say something contentious. What are you studying? So you can put 3 things in there. It might just be something like the social sciences, well, not just the social sciences, but it might be that you're studying with a particular aim in mind. So there's no right or wrong answer to these questions. You can just fill them in. Why are you studying? What are you most excited about and what are you most worried about? So if you fill those in, I can talk to my first guest, Jay, about some of those concerns. So thanks, Jay, for coming in.
No problem.
You're doing our first thing, which is OU Study Materials Explained. And by the way, at home, you can see our full programme on the Student Hub Live website. You can drop in and out as you want to throughout the day. So this is an important one. We wanted someone from our Access provision because very often students start with Access, don't they?
They do. It's a great place to start. Some really fantastic modules. So as you said, YO31, YO32, YO33, and they're a really great grounding, really good introduction to the Open University, and really help students learn how to study with us and study really effectively.
Because the trick with the OU is not just like being super intelligent. In fact, we were talking about how, in fact, that's not what you need. What you need is good time management, perseverance, determination, and other sort of stuff there as well. So some students might just come into level 1, and that's okay as well. Some students might get a pack of something like you've got here. Some students might just get a link to a module website. So everyone's different, aren't they?
Everyone is very different, and that's really important to remember as well, that sometimes, you know, for example, on the kind of the chat today or in the forums, those sorts of things, some students might talk about their experiences and they're different, and that's okay, because everybody is different. Modules are different, that's fine.
And they're all designed differently, but the one thing they're all done is designed. There's always a sort of process there, so people might get something here. So some students, I mean, we're going to take this as an example, just because it is an example, and we'll talk about some of the fundamental things that students might want to find. And do ask us as well at home if there's something that you're stuck on or you can't find. But there's a start here leaflet, because sometimes getting something in the post is super exciting, but you're not quite sure then what to do. You might just want to read the book.
and also you might get like a pack like this in the post, or something a bit bigger, and feel a bit overwhelmed as well, feel a bit sort of kind of taken aback that there's lots of things to go through, there's lots of things to read through, and it can be a bit nervous. You know, some students have shared with us in the past that actually, you know, just by getting that pack, not only were they excited, but actually that really made their kind of nervousness ramp up a little bit, and that's a-okay. But also, you're probably not the only one if you feel like that. And that's what a lot of the support around you is there, to help explain these things and also to help get you ready. So as you said, there's a start here leaflet, which is really helpful because it is literally start here. Okay, so I'm just going to hold this up in case the camera can go on into it. So this is a lovely leaflet, very much says kind of start here, really helpful device. Sorry, I'm going to hold it open. And we've got some really nice things. So, Karen, do you think you could pick some great stuff to talk through while I hold it?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't quite learned how to read upside down.
This is the module pack, so everything you need to do to get started. And with this particular module as well, there's a thing here about how to find your module website. And I guess that's critical. No matter what happens, you'll have all of these things. So let's start with the module website first. Because some students get the book, and I've had students who said, I've read the book, but I don't really know what to do. And it's because they haven't seen the module website, so it's a bit confusing.
You're right.
So what's on the module website?
So on the module website, we've got a very neatly, very nicely laid out section. Often, am I right in thinking it's by week? So it's really well planned, really well sequenced for you. On there, you'll find kind of your news, you'll find updates. We know that our amazing curriculum managers monitor those sites. So anything, any kind of questions, any feedback, they're often there to look at them as well. And so, and obviously you're a chair for YO32, so you know the importance of students just using that website, using that calendar to plan their time. So what do you recommend to students to do?
Well, I think for me, anyway, it's finding that website, and then there are tabs, and we're going to be going through those a little bit later with some colleagues. But the key thing I often think is understanding how the module's assessed. So there's an assessment tab, there's a tab for often tutorials, and each module works really differently. And there's also often a tab for resources, and as you say, the study planner. But I find the assessment really helpful because very often it's just knowing like how many things you're going to have to do, when you're going to have to do them. And some students, not many, but some might have an exam, and that's sort of not very flexible.
No,
there's a lot of flexibility elsewhere, but exams not so much so. So if you're thinking about legging it on a holiday abroad, you want to avoid that time, don't you?
But it's really useful to see, as you say, in the assessment tab, in the assignment guides, in the study planner, exactly how and what you have to study, so you can manage your time, so you can work flexibly. I'm doing a little bit of studying at the minute, and I know that I sort of log on at the beginning of the week and I read through all of my different tasks, and I sort of map things out as to when I can do them. And that works for me, and it works for what I'm studying. But I know different modules have different advice. And again, that's the thing, isn't it? That actually different modules will do things differently. And sometimes different students will do things differently. We're all juggling things in different ways.
Definitely. Right, well, we asked you at home what you were studying, so let's take a look and see what you all said. Okay, so lots of students doing psychology, very, very popular. DD102, which is our introduction to the social sciences. We've got students doing healthcare. So interesting here how some people are choosing modules like SDK 100, K117, DE 300, EK 313. Some people saying level 1, U101, biology, criminology, counselling. There's a lot of really exciting subject areas here that people are studying. I get really jealous when I look at these because there's just so much to learn. But that's absolutely fantastic. Hey Shay, are there any burning questions, and have people found their module website?
Well, we have started to look around. There just seems to be so much there. So I think really what we want to know are what are the important bits that we start off with, because everywhere we look there's something different and something new, but where's our starting point? What's the most important thing we should focus on to start, do we reckon?
Okay, so we have one in Access, which is just one example. We have a lovely we call it a snail diagram. It's like a circle, isn't it?
Example.
And I think, you know, irrespective of whether your study planner is linear or circular or a pretty picture or not, there's something there each week. And I think that's one of the key things here, is that it's important to know how the module's structured, when those critical times are, and what you're expected to do each week. One of the things I like, I mean, Jay, you were sort of talking about how every student's different and picking stuff up and putting stuff down, is how on the study planner, which is the homepage of the module website, and you've got like 3 weeks or the whole module, you can tick things off as you go through.
You can.
So very often, shall I give you a thing of one of the things I find really useful? One of the things I like in this particular Access module, because it starts with a book and every module's really different, they'll tell you what you need to do each week. So here, there's this lovely snail diagram. Let's see if Gerard can take a look at that. And this shows you from the module, you are here, and then it says Unit 1, Unit 2, and it's got the module titles, and it also gives you an option week and a TMA week. So those are the really important things to look at throughout the module, because they're all structured in a very interesting way like that. Then what happens is that you have your study weeks and your things on assessment as well as you're going through, learning outcomes, etc., and then various tasks as you go through. Now, some of the modules will have something in there where you've got a sort of time planner each week. So here's an example in this particular module where you'll look at how to structure your time and what to do. And every module will have tasks that you sort of set out each week. So you can see here there's an interactive thing for students to fill in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and start planning their time like that.
Yeah, there is.
So it's important to bear in mind the time planner as well as how you particularly manage your time each week, isn't it?
It is. It's really important, and like you said with Access, this sort of the structure I think is a really helpful visual way. And I'm such a visual person, so as you well know, so anything like this for me that really helps me think about, okay, what does my block look like? How big are my tasks? And we know that colleagues will talk about waiting for things like assessment as well, and that's very key to know, and when you should submit, and you know how important submitting is as well. So that's really useful. So something visual like this, I think, really helps when you're very new to this type of studying, or hey, if you've done it before. And actually, I think that's a really helpful way of presenting it, and it just goes through all the different areas. And then for Access as well, you've got these really nice, exciting weeks, don't you? Do you want to talk a bit more about those almost option weeks? Yeah. So in some modules, you'll have sort of set tasks to do. Sometimes in Access, we have options weeks where there's things that you could do. So one of them is like being an online learner, or we've had things on the environment. So sometimes people can sort of go a bit off-piste because the way our modules are structured, very often at level 1, they start off with something really, really broad. So we've seen here all the range of stuff students are studying. Some students might be studying politics, but they might be on DD102. And within that, then they might meet some economics, some social sciences, psychology, criminology, all these other sort of subjects as well. So it's nice to have options weeks or a bit of flexibility to think, actually, I'm really interested in this. I'm going to go off and do that. And even in the module, like you'll have your time, maybe it's 8 or 16 hours of sort of allocated study. Sometimes there's that like optional time or time to sort of think about things and explore things. It's not all packed. Yeah, exactly. You know, you come across a piece of knowledge or a piece of information, and then you kind of think, oh, I really want to learn more. For me, it's the equivalent of watching like a historical film and then Wikipediaing stuff just to see what's true or what's not true. But it's that thing about learning, isn't it? And when it's exciting, and when you get to you get to go and explore something, and you just follow that thread of learning, and it's a bit like the light bulb lighting up. So, it's fantastic. But one of the things I find very helpful with Access is these little charts every now and then again. And it sort of says, these are the things that you're going to do this week. And then this is how long they recommend that will be. So actually, this is a brilliant way of organising your week. And I suppose, in a sense, very similar to what I do. I think, okay, how long is that task going to take? It's going to take 30 minutes. It's going to take an hour. And so I think, right, Tuesday after dinner, I can do that hour. But at the same time, I'm in the car for 30 minutes, waiting for a friend, so I'm going to read that, And
because here it's in a book, whereas other modules will have this online. So for Access, it's these 1 hour chunks, 1 hour, 2 hours, 15 minutes, etc. Now, sometimes some people will say, well, it took me a lot less. Or some people say it took me a lot longer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important as well that we all study at different paces. We all interpret different information in different ways. And I think also in the early days of studying, it's really helpful not to compare yourself to other learners, because everybody's different, everybody's unique. And so it's really important not to worry if some people are ahead and you're feeling a bit behind, or you've just got to read a few things at your own pace. And again, that's the beauty of the type of materials that we have, is that if you need to go back and listen to something again, or watch something again, or read something again, you can. It's so easy. It's not, I remember the fear of asking the maths tutor to repeat that formula again, like for the third time, because I didn't understand. Whereas, of course, now you just watch the clip again, or you just, read the book again, and that's so helpful, isn't it? So helpful.
And you've mentioned a really important word there, your tutor, which is one of the other things on that Start Here leaflet. Because, of course, while you sort of got things to help you figure it out, and many students, study very successfully alone, your tutor is a really important person. And we've got sessions specifically on your tutor later and making the most of that. But broadly speaking, students might have their tutor's details at the minute, mightn't they? How do you work? You mentioned your study. How do you work with your tutor to sort of help you as an individual learner?
I think sometimes, we have a bit of email correspondence. And I know in Access, there's a bit of a different model where tutors speak to their students, don't they? And that's fantastic. So there's a bit more of a one-to-one model there. And sometimes I might email them. So I'm dyslexic, so I like to kind of declare that quite early on. And over the years of knowing I've been dyslexic for a while, I've put lots of different strategies in place. So I might just share that with my tutor, just to say this is the sort of thing that I might need, or, help me watch out for this. So for me, a classic dyslexicism is to kind of repeat myself. So sometimes I say to the tutor, if I've said the same thing twice, that's okay to point it out to me, and sometimes I do that verbally as well.
I think we all do. Sometimes I just thought that in my head.
So sometimes that's a really good thing for me to be able to work with the tutor. And sometimes also it's being honest and saying, I've got a real pinch point coming up. Or I'm going to try and do this early because I know I've got a pressure on my time then, or it's about that relationship to work sort of flexibly with your tutor. But, often they're really approachable. I think also we've known students who sort of are a bit worried about having conversations with their tutor, or worried about being honest with them. And I mean, I know you've done some tutoring there. What would you sort of advise students like that? Because do you think sometimes people come with a bit of a fearful kind of impression of what their tutor might be, like the old-fashioned scary tutor at school?
They do. And I think sometimes there's this whole power thing, which is almost inevitable. But one thing I do find interesting is some students say, I'm really sorry, I haven't been able to put my normal effort into this, and they sort of feel like they're letting you down. Whereas I think for me, when I'm teaching, I think, hey, life gets in the way. Sometimes you can't do a good enough job. Sometimes you can't even do a great job. You just have to get something in or not. And so I'll talk to students about that. But I do so often think it's really interesting and lovely that they want to do well for you. But I always think it's your journey, and you're doing well for yourself, and you can't always do.
And I think also it's really interesting that you say that, because there is that thing that sometimes in our team we've been doing this phrase of like, but is it good enough? And I know that, and I've been studying, and I confess I'm a little behind at the minute, and it's sort of going through my head. But there is sometimes that thing of going, actually, I don't want to procrastinate. I don't want to wait until I can do an amazing job, a brilliant job. And part of you just sort of wants to kick into that, and you want to go, I'm late, so actually I'll do it brilliantly, so that it kind of counts up for being late. But actually, you're absolutely, sometimes it's important just to do the best you can, get something on there, and just give give it a go, because as you say, I haven't taught at the OU context, but I've taught before, and you just want students to do well, don't you? You know, you're so for them and you're so behind them, and I think we know from the conversations we've had with our brilliant AL community that they're so passionate about their students, they're so supportive that they just want to hear
well
from you.
for one student can look very different to another one.
Massively different.
In terms of grade and also what you're
Absolutely.
focusing on.
Yeah, and also your motivation for study as well, because lots of different people have different reasons for studying, and that can be so different. And actually, what's your own personal definition of success? As well, and sometimes just doing good enough is good enough.
Oh, Jay, that's a really lovely thing. That's all we've got time for, but it's such a nice point to end on, I think, because it's a really, really, really important thing. We've got so much lined up for you. This is really just an introduction. We've thrown around some things, and what we're going to do a little bit later today is unpack some of those things, like really take a look at the student-tutor relationship. Our next session is going to show you around the virtual learning environment. We'll look at, not our next session, our session after that. Our next session is going to be talking to you about this whole idea about studying in memory and recall and stuff, which is another common anxiety students have. So thank you so much, Jay Rixon, for joining me. That's been a really nice introduction. I hope you're getting chatting at home, and we'll bring a lot more comments into our next session. Don't forget to send HJ your cats and dogs and study spaces and study buddies, because he has this really tiny printer, and then we have to zoom in on it really small, but we love seeing your cats and dogs and animals. So please do send those in to studenthub@open.ac.uk and just let us know we can use those. Anything else I forgot to mention about that?
No, we've started to get some in, so I'm really excited to show them. We've
winding the printer
cats
up.
And dogs, and yes, that's it. So we'll show them in our next session.
Brilliant. HJ likes the cats, I like the dogs. So yeah, that'd be brilliant. All right. Okay, well, we're going to have a quick video break now. We're going to show you some videos in between these sessions. Some of those will be about the OU campus. Other things will be about the virtual learning environment, which is our first video we're going to show you today. But join us for our next live session, where we're going to be talking to some people from psychology and religious studies about the importance, or not importance, of remembering what you've been reading. We'll see you in a minute.